Hey everyone, it's Miss Joyce. Today we'll be learning how to rewrite decimals as fractions, as well as use the standard algorithm to multiply whole numbers by decimals. We're going to rewrite each decimal as a fraction. We can use the place value chart below to help us. Here's our place value chart. Our first problem is 0 and 4 tenths. So we're going to place the digits in the place value chart. The 0 is going in the ones place, and the 4 is in the tenths place. So since our last digit is the 4 and it's in the tenths place, we are going to write this as 4 tenths. We can see here the 4 is what we see. That's the number on top, and it's in the tenths place, so there's going to be a 10 on the bottom. Now let's try B. We have 0 and 4 hundredths. So we're going to put a 0 in the ones place, a 0 in the tenths place, and a 4 in the hundredths place. So we can see here that we have 0 and 4 hundredths. We can see the number 4, so that's going to be our numerator. And the last digit 4 is in the hundredths place, so our denominator or the bottom number is 100. 4 hundredths is equal to 4 over 100. For C, we have 0 and 4 thousandths. So we're going to place a 0 in the ones place, a 0 in the tenths place, a 0 in the hundredths place, and a 4 in the thousandths place. So when we look at this number, we can see the number 4, and the last digit 4 is in the thousandths place. So we're going to write this as 4 thousandths. The number we see is on top as our numerator, and the place value that the last digit is in, the thousandths, is going to be our denominator. Now we have 1 and 36 hundredths. So to place this in the place value chart, we're going to put a 1 in the ones place, the 3 in the tenths, and the 6 in the hundredths. We notice here that our number is bigger than 1. We have a whole number. So this 1, which is in front of the decimal, is going to go in front of our fraction here as our big whole number. After the decimal, we see the number 36. So we're going to place that on top as our numerator. The last digit 6 is in the hundredths place, so we're going to place 100 in the bottom as our denominator. We have 1 and 36 hundredths. Next, we have 5 and 8 hundredths. So we have the 5 in the ones place, a 0 in the tenths, and an 8 in the hundredths. Our whole number is anything before the decimal point, so we're going to place a big 5 in front of the fraction. If we look after the decimal point, we see the number 8. So that is going to be our numerator. And the last digit 8 is in the hundredths place. So our denominator is going to be 100. For F, we have 3 and 16 thousandths. So we're going to place a 3 in the ones place, a 0 in the tenths, a 1 in the hundredths, and a 6 in the thousandths. Everything before the decimal point is our whole number, so we have 3 as our whole number. We're going to place a big 3 before the fraction. After the decimal point, we see the number 16, so that's going to be our numerator. The last digit 6 is in the thousandths place, so we're going to place 1,000 as our denominator. 3 and 16 thousandths. Next, we have 12 and 5 hundredths. So we're going to place the 1 in the tenths place, the 2 in the ones, the 0 in the tenths, and the 5 in the hundredths. Before the decimal point, we see the number 12. So that's going to be our whole number in the front. After the decimal point, we see the number 5. So that's going to be our numerator. And the 5 is in the hundredths place. So our denominator is going to be 100. For H, we have 4 and 108 thousandths. So let's place that in the place value chart. The 4 goes in the ones place, the 1 in the tenths, the 0 in the hundredths, and the 8 in the thousandths. Before the decimal point, we have the number 4, so that's going to be our whole number in front of the fraction. After the decimal point, we have 108, so that's going to be our numerator. The last digit 8 is in the thousandths place, so the denominator is going to be 1,000. Finally, we have 26 and 34 thousandths. So let's place that in the place value chart. Before the decimal, we have 26. So we're going to place a big 26 in front of the fraction. After the decimal point, we have 34. So the numerator is going to be 34. The last digit is the 4 in the thousandths place. So the denominator is going to be 1,000. we have 26 and 34 thousandths. Now let's try multiplying a decimal by a whole number. Here we have 35 and 2 tenths times 14. We can use whole numbers to relate to this problem to help us multiply. 35 and 2 tenths is very similar to 30. Now let's multiply 35 and 2 tenths times 14. We can use whole number multiplication to help us solve this problem. We can rewrite this problem as 352 times 14. We will then use their place value understanding to add the decimal in later. First, let's start by multiplying the ones place. 4 times 2 is 8. Now we'll multiply 4 times 5, which is 20. So we'll put a 0 down here in the tens place, regroup the 2 on top of the hundreds place. 4 times 3 is 12, plus 2 is 14. Make sure to cross out the 2 at the top since we've already used it. So 352 times 4 is 1,408. Before we even start multiplying by the 1 in the tens place, let's put a 0 down here in the ones place so our answer will start in the tens place. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 5 is 5. And 1 times 3 is 3. So 352 times 10 is 3,520. Now let's add these two products together. 8 plus 0 is 8. 0 plus 2 is 2. 4 plus 5 is 9. And 1 plus 3 is 4. But our answer is not 4,928. We need to remember to include the decimal. In our starting problem, we knew that our decimal had a number or a digit that was in the tenths place. There was one digit after the decimal. So in our answer, we need to answer in the tenths place where there's one digit after the decimal. So we're going to place the decimal between the 2 and the 8. So our final answer is 492 and 8 tenths. Now let's try 2,065 times 34 hundredths. Again, we can relate to the whole number multiplication, which would be 2,065 times 34. First, let's multiply 2,065 times the 4. We'll start with 4 times 5, which is 20. We'll put a 0 here and regroup the 2 to the tens place. Now we'll do 4 times 6, which is 24, plus 2 is 26. So we'll put a 6 down in the tens place, regroup the 2 to the hundreds place. Be sure to cross off the 2 in the tens place because we've already added it. Now we'll do 4 times 0 is 0, plus 2 is 2. Remember to cross out the 2 in the hundreds place since we've already added it. Now we'll do 4 times 2, which is 8. So 2,065 times 4 is 8,260. Now we're going to multiply 2,065 times 30. Since the 3 is in the tens place, before we even start multiplying, make sure to put a 0 in the ones place. Now we'll multiply 3 times 5 is 15. So we'll put a 5 here, regroup the 1 on top of the next number that we're multiplying. Since we'll be multiplying 3 times 6 next, the 1 goes on top of the 6. So 3 times 6 is 18, plus 1 is 19. So place a 9 down here, regroup the 1 on top of the next digit we'll be multiplying by, which is the 0. 3 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1. So we put a 1 down here in the thousands place. Be sure to cross off the ones because we've already added them. Finally, 3 times 2 is 6. So 2,065 times 30 is 61,950. Let's add these products together. 0 plus 0 is 0. 6 plus 5 is 11. We'll place a 1 down here in the tens place, regroup the 1 to the hundreds place. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 9 is 12. Put a 2 down here in the hundreds, regroup the 1 to the thousands. 1 plus 8 is 9, plus 1 is 10, so place a 0 down here in the thousands place, regroup the 1 on top of the 10,000s place. 1 plus 6 is 7, so we have 70,210, but don't forget the decimal. In our starting problem, we had 34 hundredths, so our answer needs to be in the hundredths place since we're multiplying by a number that's in the ones place. So we need to rewrite this number in the hundredths where there'll be 2 digits after the decimal point. So if we look at our number, we need 2 digits after the decimal point. We need to place the decimal between the 2 and the 1. So our final answer is 702 and 10 hundredths.